My mother told everyone I was unemployed while I funded her lifestyle, so I canceled her credit cards at Christmas dinner. The waiter brought my mother's third bottle of champagne just as her credit card declined. I watched from across the table as she handed him a different card, the black Amex she'd been waving around all evening, telling everyone how she'd finally learned to treat herself after years of sacrifice. The waiter returned 2 minutes later with that same apologetic expression. My Aunt Diane stopped mid-sentence about her cruise to Alaska. Uncle Raymond's fork paused halfway to his mouth. My mother's face cycled through confusion, then embarrassment, then landed on fury as her eyes found mine. "What did you do?" she said, her voice low and dangerous. I took a sip of water and set the glass down carefully. "I stopped paying for your lies." The table went silent. 17 people, my entire extended family, staring at me with expressions ranging from shock to confusion. My cousin Bethany whispered something to her husband. My grandmother clutched her pearls, literally. My mother's mouth opened and closed like a fish drowning in air. "I don't know what you're talking about," she managed finally. I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app, turned the screen toward the table so everyone could see. "These are the credit cards I've been paying off for you for the past 4 years. This one," I pointed to the Amex, $11,000 balance last month. "This one." I swiped to the next statement. "The visa you used to book the Cancun trip you told everyone your gentleman friend paid for, $9,000. And this one. The MasterCard you maxed out at Nordstrom last week, buying gifts for everyone here tonight." I looked around the table at the wrapped presents stacked on the side table. "Gifts you're giving them with my money, while telling everyone I'm an unemployed failure living in your basement." My mother stood up so fast her chair tipped backward. "You're making this up. You're having some kind of breakdown." But her voice shook. Aunt Diane reached for her phone. "Vivian, is this true?" My mother's face went red. "Of course not. Jonathan has always been troubled. He's been unemployed for 2 years. I've been supporting him, and now he's trying to humiliate me because I asked him to finally get a job." The lie was so smooth, so practiced, that for a second I almost doubted myself. Almost forgot that I was a senior software architect at Blackstone Digital making $180,000 a year. Almost forgot the past 4 years of quietly paying her bills while she told everyone I was a disappointment. Uncle Raymond cleared his throat. "Jonathan, didn't you just buy that house in Maple Heights?" My mother cut in before I could answer. "He's renting. I co-signed because his credit is destroyed. I'm the one making the payments." Another lie. The house was mine, paid for with my own down payment and mortgage. But she'd been telling people she owned it, that she was letting me live there out of charity. I'd found out 3 months ago at my cousin's wedding when someone congratulated her on her real estate investment. I pulled up another screen on my phone. "This is my employment contract, signed 2 years ago when I got promoted. Annual salary, bonus structure, stock options. Would you like me to show everyone my last pay stub?" My mother lunged across the table, trying to grab my phone. Red wine spilled across the white tablecloth. Bethany gasped. Uncle Raymond caught my mother's arm. "Vivian, sit down." She wrenched away from him, breathing hard. "He forged those documents. He's been obsessed with proving himself to me ever since his father left. This is just another one of his desperate attempts for attention." The manipulation was masterful. She'd turned my evidence into proof of my instability, made my success sound like delusion. I watched several family members exchange glances, watched doubt creep into their expressions. This was what she did. This was why I'd let it go on so long. She was too good at this game, and I'd been too tired to play. Until 3 weeks ago, when I'd walked into my therapist's office and finally said the words out loud. "My mother has been lying about me for years, and I've been enabling it by paying her bills and staying silent." Dr. Nina Patel had looked at me over her glasses and said something that changed everything. "Why are you protecting someone who's destroying your reputation?" I didn't have a good answer. Just the old familiar guilt, the need to be a good son, the fear of what would happen if I stopped playing my assigned role in her narrative. Dr. Patel had given me homework. Document everything, build the case, decide what I wanted. What I wanted was simple. I wanted to stop being invisible. Wanted to stop funding the lifestyle of someone who told everyone I was a burden. Wanted my family to know the truth, even if they didn't believe it. Especially if they didn't believe it, because that would finally free me from caring what they thought. So I'd spent 3 weeks preparing. Called my lawyer, David Chen. No, wait, David Grayson. He'd helped me buy my house, knew my financial situation intimately. I'd had him draft a document outlining every payment I'd made on my mother's behalf for the past 4 years. Every credit card bill, every car payment, every insurance premium, every country club membership fee, every vacation, every designer handbag, everything. The total was $284,000. You could sue her, David had said, reviewing the numbers. This is financial elder abuse in reverse. Adult child exploitation. I'd shaken my head. I just want it to stop. I want her to know I know. I want everyone to know. David had nodded slowly. Then you need irrefutable proof. Bank statements, credit card records, payment confirmations, everything time-stamped and documented. I'd gathered it all, created a folder on my laptop labeled "The Truth About Mom." Then I'd called the credit card companies one by one and explained that I would no longer be an authorized user making payments on accounts under my mother's name. The customer service representatives had been sympathetic. One had even said, "Good for you, honey. Family can be the worst." I'd scheduled the cancellations for December 23rd, 2 days before Christmas. Timed it perfectly so she'd discover it at the family dinner she'd been planning for months, the one where she played matriarch and basked in everyone's admiration while spending money she didn't have. Money I'd been providing while she told everyone I was unemployed and living off her charity. Now, sitting at that table with 17 family members staring at us, I felt eerily calm. My mother was still standing, still breathing hard, still trying to regain control. "Jonathan, if you don't apologize right now and admit you're lying, I'm going to have to ask you to leave." I stood up and picked up my wine glass. "I'm not apologizing, and I'm not leaving until everyone here knows exactly what's been happening." Aunt Diane set down her fork. "Jonathan, these are serious accusations. Your mother has always been there for you." The words were gentle, but I heard the skepticism underneath. Of course she didn't believe me. Why would she? My mother had spent years building this narrative. "Has she?" I asked. "Has she told you I've been unemployed for 2 years?" Murmurs around the table. Several people nodded. "Has she told you she's been supporting me financially?" More nods. My cousin Bethany spoke up. "She said you were struggling with depression and couldn't hold down a job." My mother's version of me was so detailed, so consistent. She'd built an entire fictional son and convinced everyone he was real. I opened my laptop bag and pulled out a manila folder. Inside were printed bank statements, credit reports, employment verification letters, tax returns. "I'm going to pass these around," I said. "You don't have to believe me. You can verify everything independently. My employer's HR number is on the letterhead. The bank statements show every payment I've made. The credit reports show my name as an authorized user on all her accounts." My mother tried to snatch the folder. I held it out of reach. "Or," I said, looking directly at her, "you can tell them the truth right now. Explain why you've been lying. Explain where the money has been coming from. Explain why you told everyone I was unemployed when I've been paying for everything." She stared at me, and for just a second I saw something I'd never seen before. Fear. Real fear. Then her face crumpled. The tears came instantly, perfectly timed. "How can you do this to me?" she sobbed. "After everything I've sacrificed for you. After raising you alone when your father abandoned us. This is how you repay me? By humiliating me in front of my family?" Grandmother stood up. "Jonathan, I think you should leave. Your mother is clearly upset." This was the moment. The one where I either backed down like I always had, or I pushed through. "No," I said quietly. "I'm not leaving. And I'm not the one who should be upset. I'm not the one who's been lying." I started passing the documents around the table. Uncle Raymond took them first, put on his reading glasses, started scanning the pages. His expression changed as he read, shifted from skeptical to confused to shocked. "Vivian," he said slowly, "these bank statements show Jonathan made a payment of $3,200 to your Amex on November 15th. My mother's tears stopped. "Those are forged." Uncle Raymond pulled out his phone. "The routing number here. I can verify this with the bank." My mother's face went white. "Raymond, You can't possibly believe him over me. But Raymond was already dialing. The table had gone completely silent. You could hear the string quartet in the corner of the restaurant playing something classical and incongruous. Bethany was reading through the employment verification letter. Aunt Diane had the credit report. My grandmother was staring at my mother with an expression I couldn't read. Uncle Raymond stepped away from the table, phone to his ear. Came back 5 minutes later. His face was grim. The bank confirms the transactions. Jonathan's been making payments on your credit cards for 4 years. The silence that followed was deafening. My mother opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. He forced me to let him. He said if I didn't accept his help, he'd cut me off completely. He's been controlling my finances, isolating me. The lie shifted so fast it gave me whiplash. Now I wasn't unemployed. I was financially abusive. I almost laughed. Is that why you maxed out all 3 cards this month? Because I was controlling your finances? Aunt Diane spoke up, her voice sharp. Vivian, why would you tell everyone he was unemployed if he was paying your bills? My mother's composure was fracturing. I was protecting his privacy. He didn't want people to know he was helping me. He has this pathological need to appear independent. Uncle Raymond shook his head. That doesn't make sense. You've been actively telling people he was struggling. My mother rounded on him. Whose side are you on? The question hung in the air, ugly and revealing. Sides. It had always been about sides with her. You were either with her or against her. No middle ground. No room for truth if it complicated her narrative. Bethany's husband, Mark, cleared his throat. He was a CPA, the family's unofficial financial advisor. Jonathan, can I see your tax returns? I handed them over. Mark studied them for several minutes while my mother sat rigid in her chair, her perfect mask finally cracking. These show significant income, Mark said carefully. W-2 from Blackstone Digital. Matches what you said about your salary. He looked at my mother. Vivian, where did you tell us Jonathan was working? My mother didn't answer, just sat there, breathing shallow, her hands clenched on the table. My grandmother finally spoke. Vivian, is this true? My mother's voice came out broken. You don't understand. I needed help. After Jonathan's father left, I had nothing. Jonathan owed me. I raised him alone. I sacrificed everything. The justification was familiar. I'd heard versions of it my entire adult life. Every time I'd tried to set a boundary, every time I'd suggested maybe she should budget better, every time I'd questioned a purchase, I owed her, always owed her, for being born, for being raised, for existing. I never said I wouldn't help you, I said quietly. I said I wouldn't be lied about. There's a difference. My mother looked up at me, and for the first time in my life, I saw her clearly. Not as my mother, not as the victim of my father's abandonment, not as the struggling single parent of her mythology, just as a person who'd found it easier to lie than to tell the truth, who'd found it more comfortable to make me small so she could feel big. I needed people to feel sorry for me, she said, so quietly I almost missed it. I needed them to see me as the good mother who didn't give up on her troubled son, because if they knew the truth, if they knew you were successful and I was still struggling, they'd think I was a failure. The confession stunned me. Not because it was surprising, but because she'd actually said it out loud, admitted the ugly truth underneath all the lies. Aunt Diane made a sound like she'd been slapped. Grandmother sank back into her chair. Uncle Raymond looked at my mother with something that might have been pity. Bethany just looked sad. So you destroyed his reputation to protect yours, Mark said, his CPA brain cutting straight to the bottom line. My mother didn't respond. The waiter reappeared, nervously clutching a bill. I'm sorry to interrupt, but we need to settle the check. I pulled out my wallet, then stopped. Looked at my mother. Would you like to tell them who usually pays for these family dinners? She flinched. Jonathan. Uncle Raymond's eyebrows shot up. I thought you'd been treating us. She has been, I said. With my money. Every family dinner for the past 4 years. Every birthday celebration. Every holiday gathering. All of it funded by her unemployed, struggling son who's been living in her basement. I turned to the waiter. I'll take care of it, but this is the last time. I handed him my card. As he walked away, my mother started crying again. Real tears this time, I thought. Or maybe not. Maybe she was so good at lying that even her tears were calculated. My grandmother stood up slowly. I think I need to go home. The table began to disintegrate, people standing, gathering coats, avoiding eye contact. My mother sat alone as her family filed out one by one, until it was just the two of us and Uncle Raymond, who'd lingered by the door. You should have told us sooner, Raymond said to me. We would have believed you. I wasn't sure that was true, but I appreciated the sentiment. The waiter returned with my card and receipt. I added a generous tip, because none of this was his fault. Signed my name and stood up. My mother grabbed my wrist. What am I supposed to do now? Her voice was small, frightened. Get a job, I said. Budget. Live within your means. All the things you told everyone I needed to do. Her grip tightened. I can't afford my apartment, my car payment, the country club membership. I gently removed her hand. That's no longer my problem. I walked out of the restaurant into cold December air that felt like freedom. My phone started buzzing before I got to my car, texts from family members. Bethany, I'm so sorry. I should have questioned things sooner. Aunt Diane, your mother owes you an apology, and probably money. Uncle Raymond, let me know if you need anything. My grandmother, please come see me. We need to talk. I drove home to my house in Maple Heights, the one my mother had told everyone she owned, the one I'd saved for and bought myself at 29. Pulled into the driveway and sat in the dark for a while, processing. Dr. Patel had warned me that exposing the truth wouldn't feel as satisfying as I might expect. Justice isn't always cathartic, she'd said. Sometimes it's just necessary. She was right. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt tired, relieved, free, but also sad for what could have been if my mother had just been honest. The next morning, my phone rang at 6 a.m. My mother. I let it go to voicemail. She called 16 more times that day, left messages that cycled through anger, bargaining, guilt-tripping, and finally desperation. Jonathan, please. I'm sorry. I'll tell everyone the truth. I'll make it right. Just don't cut me off. I can't survive without your help. The voicemails made my stomach turn. Not because I felt guilty, but because I realized she still didn't understand. Still thought this was about the money. Still thought she could apologize and manipulate her way back into my wallet. I called David Grayson, my lawyer. I need to formalize the separation of our finances, remove myself from all her accounts, make sure she can't open anything else in my name. David was quiet for a moment. Jonathan, you know she could sue you for the support you've been providing. Argue you established a pattern of dependency. I hadn't known that. The possibility made me feel sick. What do I do? David's voice was calm, professional. We document that you were coerced through emotional manipulation. We show the disparity between her claimed poverty and her actual spending. We demonstrate that she committed fraud by misrepresenting your employment status to obtain sympathy and financial support from others. If she sues, we counter-sue for defamation. I hung up feeling shaky, called Dr. Patel and got her voicemail. Left a message asking for an emergency session. She called back within an hour. How are you feeling? She asked. Terrified, I admitted. I thought exposing her would end it. Now I'm worried it's just beginning. Dr. Patel's voice was gentle. Jonathan, what you did took courage. But you're right that this is just the beginning. Your mother built her identity around a lie. When you destroyed that lie, you destroyed the foundation of how she sees herself. She's going to fight to rebuild it. We talked for 30 minutes. She helped me understand that my mother's response was predictable, almost textbook. Narcissistic injury, Dr. Patel called it. When their carefully constructed image is shattered, people like your mother don't reflect. They attack. By New Year's Eve, the family fallout had spread like wildfire. My mother had started calling relatives, spinning a new version of events. In this one, I'd humiliated her at Christmas dinner because she'd refused to keep enabling my control issues. She was the victim of financial abuse. I was unstable, dangerous, needed intervention. Some family members bought it. My cousin Jeremy called to tell me I should be ashamed. Your mother raised you alone. Show some respect. I didn't bother defending myself, just added him to the list of people I was cutting off. But others saw through it. Aunt Diane started asking questions, comparing notes with Uncle Raymond. They discovered my mother had borrowed money from both of them over the years, claiming she needed to help me through various crises, money that had never been repaid. Uncle Raymond called me on January 2nd. She told me last year she needed $5,000 for your dental surgery. I gave it to her in cash. I'd never had dental surgery. She told me you were in rehab, Aunt Diane said when I called her. That she needed $3,000 for treatment costs. I wrote her a check. I'd never been in rehab. The lies had been so much bigger than I'd realized. My mother hadn't just lied about me being unemployed. She'd created an entire fictional version of my life, complete with crises that required financial intervention. And she'd used that fiction to extract money from our entire family. Uncle Raymond suggested we all get together to compare notes. We met at Aunt Diane's house on January 10th. 7 family members, all of whom my mother had borrowed money from, using lies about me. Mark, Bethany's husband, brought a legal pad and started documenting everything. The total came to $34,000. Money my mother had borrowed for my fake rehab, my fake dental surgery, my fake medical bills, my fake court fees from a fake DUI, my fake security deposit for a fake apartment after she'd supposedly kicked me out. We could report this as fraud, Mark said, looking at the numbers. She obtained money under false pretenses. I shook my head. I don't want her arrested. I just want it to stop. Aunt Diane's expression was hard. Jonathan, she's not going to stop unless she faces consequences. You know that. I did know that. But the idea of my mother in handcuffs, in court, in jail, made me feel sick despite everything. Uncle Raymond put a hand on my shoulder. Think about it. You don't have to decide today. I went home and looked at the folder on my laptop. The truth about Mom. Added a new document. Started listing all the lies I'd just learned about. The list grew to 3 pages. That night, my mother showed up at my house. I watched through the window as she got out of her car. She looked smaller than I remembered, older. I almost didn't answer the door, but curiosity won. What do you want? I asked through the screen door. To explain, she said. To make you understand. I didn't invite her in. We stood there with the screen between us, her on the porch, me in my entryway. I grew up poor, she said. Did I ever tell you that? My parents never had anything. When I married your father, I thought I'd finally escaped that. Then he left, and I was right back where I started, struggling, ashamed. I'd heard versions of this before. The poor childhood, the abandonment, the struggle. It was supposed to make me feel guilty, supposed to make me understand why she needed what she needed. So you lied about me to get sympathy, I said. My mother flinched. I needed people to see me as more than a failure. If I was the struggling mother of a troubled son, I was noble, sacrificing. If I was just a middle-aged woman who couldn't manage her money, I was pathetic. The honesty was startling. For the first time in my life, my mother was actually explaining herself instead of manipulating. Did you ever think about what those lies did to me? I asked. She looked down. I told myself you'd never know, that you were busy with your life and your career, that it didn't matter what I told people because it wasn't affecting you. The rationalization was breathtaking. Except it was affecting me. Every family gathering where people looked at me with pity. Every conversation where someone asked if I'd found work yet. Every time someone offered to help me with my resume or connect me with job opportunities. All of it, based on your lies. My mother's voice broke. I know. I'm sorry. I'll tell everyone the truth. I shook my head. It's too late. They already know. She reached for the door handle. I didn't unlock it. Jonathan, please. I'm your mother. I made mistakes, but I love you. The word love felt empty. How could she love me and destroy my reputation? How could she love me and use me as a piggy bank while telling everyone I was a burden? I don't think you know what love is, I said quietly. I think you know what need is, what dependence is, what convenience is, but love, real love doesn't lie. She started crying. I watched, feeling nothing. The tears that used to trigger my guilt, my need to fix things, my desperation to make her happy. They had no power anymore. I need you, she said through the tears. I can't make it without your help. The admission was supposed to move me. Instead, It just made me sad. Then you'll need to figure it out, I said. I'm not your ATM anymore. I'm not your fictional troubled son. I'm just done. I closed the door, locked it, walked away while she stood on my porch, crying. The next morning, I called David Grayson. I want a cease and desist letter, no contact unless it's through lawyers, and I want documentation of everything in case she tries to sue. David got it done within 2 days. Had the letter delivered by courier to my mother's apartment. She called me 17 times that day. I didn't answer. Dr. Patel helped me process the guilt. You're allowed to protect yourself, she reminded me. Even from your mother, especially from your mother. The guilt didn't disappear, but it got quieter. Week by week, I felt lighter, more myself. My mother tried other approaches, showed up at my office, security escorted her out. Sent me letters through relatives. I returned them unopened. Called me from different numbers. I blocked them all. In February, I got a call from a social worker named Jennifer Oakes. Mr. Brennan, I'm calling about your mother. She's been admitted to Mercy Hospital. My stomach dropped. What happened? Jennifer's voice was professional, carefully neutral. She took an overdose of sleeping pills. She's stable now, but she's requesting to see you. The manipulation was transparent. I could hear Dr. Patel's voice in my head. Narcissists often escalate to suicide threats when other tactics fail. It's emotional terrorism. But she was still my mother, still the person who'd raised me, however imperfectly. I'll be there in an hour, I said. The hospital was cold and smelled like antiseptic. Jennifer Oakes met me in the lobby. She was younger than I expected, early 30s with kind eyes and a tired expression. Before you see her, I need to ask you some questions. We sat in a consultation room. Jennifer pulled out a form. Your mother claims you've been financially abusing her, withholding money, controlling her access to resources. Is that accurate? I'd expected this. Pulled out my phone and showed Jennifer the documentation I'd compiled. Bank statements showing 4 years of payments, the cease and desist letter, the credit card statements. I was paying for everything, I explained. She was telling everyone I was unemployed while I funded her lifestyle. When I stopped, she characterized it as financial abuse. Jennifer reviewed the documents carefully, made notes. And the suicide attempt? I took a breath. My mother has a pattern of escalation when she doesn't get what she wants. I'm not saying she didn't take those pills. I'm saying I'm not surprised she did. Jennifer's expression shifted. Less sympathy, more clinical assessment. Has she attempted suicide before? I shook my head. No, but she's threatened it. Usually when I've tried to set boundaries. Jennifer closed her notebook. Mr. Brennan, I'm going to be honest with you. Your mother is being evaluated for a 72-hour psychiatric hold. Based on what you've told me and what I'm seeing in her behavior, I think she's manipulating the system to regain control over you. The validation from a professional felt like a weight lifting. What do I do? Jennifer met my eyes. You don't have to see her. You don't have to be her next of kin. You can walk away. I thought about it. Really thought about it. The woman in that hospital room had given me life, raised me, taught me to read, drove me to soccer practice, made me breakfast every morning for 18 years. She'd also lied about me for years, stolen from my family using my name, and tried to destroy my reputation when I stopped funding her lifestyle. Which version was the real her? Or were they both real, and I just had to decide which one I was willing to keep in my life? I'll see her, I said finally. But briefly. Jennifer nodded. I'll be right outside. My mother was in a hospital bed, IV in her arm, looking small and fragile. When she saw me, her face crumpled. Jonathan, you came. I stood by the door, didn't approach the bed. The social worker called. My mother reached out a hand. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. I just couldn't see a way forward. Without you, I have nothing. The apology felt rehearsed. The suicide threat felt calculated. But looking at her, I also saw something real underneath the manipulation. Genuine fear, genuine desperation. A woman who'd built her entire life on lies and didn't know how to function without them. Mom, I said quietly. You need help. Real help. Not money, therapy. Treatment for whatever makes you lie instead of asking for what you need. She shook her head. I don't need therapy. I need my son back. The refusal to see her part in this was absolute. I can't be what you need, I said. I can't be your safety net while you tell everyone I'm a burden. I can't fund your life while you destroy my reputation. I can't keep setting myself on fire to keep you warm. My mother's expression shifted, anger flashing through the tears. You're abandoning me, just like your father did. The comparison was meant to wound. Instead, it clarified everything. Dad left because you made it impossible to stay, I said. I'm leaving for the same reason. The difference is, I'm not disappearing. I'm just setting boundaries. I turned to go. My mother's voice stopped me. If you walk out that door, I'll never forgive you. I looked back at her. I can live with that. I walked out. Jennifer Oakes was waiting in the hall. How'd it go? I felt shaky, but clear. It's done. I need to remove myself as her emergency contact, as her next of kin. All of it. Jennifer nodded. I'll help you with the paperwork. Over the next week, I systematically severed every official connection to my mother. Emergency contact changed to Aunt Diane. Next of kin status revoked. Power of attorney withdrawn. Every thread that tied me to her cut. My mother was released from the hospital on a Friday. Called me that night from a number I didn't recognize. I answered without thinking. Jonathan, I'm homeless. They won't let me back into my apartment. I'm 3 months behind on rent. The panic in her voice was real. So was my response. Call Aunt Diane. Call Uncle Raymond. Call one of the friends you've been impressing with your generosity. Silence. Then, they all know. They all know what I did. No one will help me. The consequences were finally landing. Then call a shelter, I said. Get social services involved. File for assistance. Do what everyone else does when they can't afford their lifestyle. My mother made a sound between a laugh and a sob. You really want me on the streets? I closed my eyes. I want you to take responsibility for your choices. That's all I've ever wanted. She hung up. I sat in my kitchen, phone in hand, waiting for the guilt to consume me. It didn't come. Instead, I felt something else. Grief, maybe, for the mother I'd never had. Relief that I'd finally stopped pretending she could become that person. In March, I got a letter from my mother's landlord. She'd listed me as a reference and an emergency contact, despite me revoking that status. The landlord was seeking payment for damages and unpaid rent. I sent him a copy of the cease and desist letter and documentation showing I was no longer responsible for her debts. He wasn't happy, but he stopped contacting me. Aunt Diane called in April. Your mother moved in with that man she was seeing, Gary something. He has no idea what he's getting into. I felt a pang of sympathy for Gary. Have you warned him? Diane laughed, sharp and bitter. I tried. He thinks we're all being too hard on her, that she just needs someone who believes in her. Some people had to learn the hard way. In May, my mother sent me a letter. Not through a lawyer, just a regular envelope with her handwriting on it. I almost threw it away unopened. Instead, I took it to my next therapy session. Dr. Patel helped me open it. The letter was 3 pages long. My mother wrote about her childhood, about her marriage to my father, about the years of struggle after he left, about how she'd never felt good enough, smart enough, successful enough, about how lying had become easier than admitting she needed help, about how she'd watched me succeed and felt simultaneously proud and threatened. Proud because I'd become what she'd never managed to be. Threatened because my success highlighted her failure. She didn't ask for money, didn't ask me to come back. Just said she was trying to understand why she'd done what she'd done. That she was in therapy, working on herself. That she hoped someday I might be willing to talk to her. But she understood if that day never came. The letter felt different, less manipulative, more honest. But I'd been fooled before. What do you want to do? Dr. Patel asked. I folded the letter carefully. I want to wait. See if the change is real or just another tactic. Dr. Patel nodded. That's wise. I didn't respond to the letter, didn't reach out, just filed it away and kept living my life. In July, Uncle Raymond called. Your mother and Gary broke up. She's living in a studio apartment in the South End, working at a grocery store. The image of my mother bagging groceries was jarring. She'd spent years maintaining the image of upper-middle-class comfort. Working retail was a humiliation she'd never have tolerated before. "How is she?" I asked. Raymond paused. "Quieter, smaller. She doesn't talk about you anymore, doesn't ask for money, just works and goes home." The change sounded real. Or maybe she'd just found new people to lie to, new sources of support. I couldn't know. Didn't want to invest the energy in figuring it out. In September, a year after the Christmas dinner that ended everything, I got an invitation to Aunt Diane's birthday party. The guest list included my mother. I called Diane. "I can't come if she's going to be there." Diane sighed. "Jonathan, it's been a year. She's changed, really changed. Can't you at least talk to her?" I thought about it, talked to Dr. Patel about it. Ultimately, decided I wasn't ready. "Tell her I hope she's doing well, but I can't. Not yet." Diane was disappointed but understanding. "Whenever you're ready, or never. That's okay too." My mother didn't come to the party either. Aunt Diane told me later that she'd declined, said she didn't want to make me uncomfortable. The consideration was new. Significant, maybe. I filed it away with the letter. Evidence that change might be possible, even if I wasn't ready to trust it yet. In November, 2 years after the Thanksgiving call that started my therapy journey, I met someone. Her name was Rachel Kim. She was a project manager at a tech company, sharp and funny, and completely unimpressed by my software architecture title. On our third date, I told her about my mother. All of it. The lies, the money, the Christmas dinner confrontation, the suicide attempt, the year of silence. I waited for judgment, for her to decide I was too damaged, too complicated. Instead, Rachel took my hand and said, "That must have been incredibly hard. How are you doing with it now?" The simple question, the genuine care in her voice, made me realize how far I'd come. "I'm okay," I said. "Most days, I'm more than okay." Rachel smiled. "Good. You deserve to be more than okay." By Christmas, Rachel and I were serious. She asked if I'd be spending the holiday with family. "Probably not," I said. "The family dynamics are complicated." Rachel, who'd grown up in a tight-knit Korean family, looked concerned. "Because of your mom?" I nodded. "It's a long story." She settled in next to me on the couch. "I have time." So I told her everything. Again, more details this time, about the folder on my laptop, about David Grayson and Dr. Patel and Jennifer Oakes, about the documentation and the cease and desist and the systematic severing of ties, about the guilt and the grief and the slow, hard-won freedom. Rachel listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "Do you regret it?" she asked finally. "Exposing her?" I thought about it, really thought about it. "No," I said. "I regret that it was necessary, but I don't regret doing it." Rachel kissed me. "Good. You protected yourself. That's never something to regret." We spent Christmas together. Just the two of us. Made dinner, watched movies, exchanged small, thoughtful gifts. It was quiet and perfect, and everything the Christmas dinner 2 years ago hadn't been. On New Year's Eve, Rachel asked me to move in with her. "I know it's fast," she said, "but I'm sure. Are you?" I was. More sure than I'd been about anything in years. We found an apartment together in February, started building a life that was ours, not contaminated by my mother's lies or my family's dysfunction. In March, 3 years after everything fell apart, Aunt Diane called. "Your mother's in the hospital. Pneumonia. It's serious." My heart lurched, despite everything. "Is she going to be okay?" Diane's voice was careful. "They think so. But Jonathan, she's asking for you." The old guilt stirred, the need to be a good son, to show up, to forgive. But it was quieter now, easier to examine and set aside. "I can't," I said. "I'm sorry, but I can't." Diane was quiet. "I understand. I'll tell her you send your best." After we hung up, Rachel found me on the balcony. "Your mom?" I nodded. She wrapped her arms around me from behind. "What do you need?" What I needed was to not feel guilty for protecting myself. "Just this," I said. "Just you." My mother recovered. Aunt Diane kept me updated without pressuring me to visit. By April, she was back to work, back to her studio apartment, back to her quiet, smaller life. In May, I got another letter. This one was shorter. Jonathan, I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect you to want a relationship. I just want you to know that I understand what I did. I understand why you left. And I'm sorry. Not sorry because I want something from you. Just sorry because you deserved better. You always deserved better. Love, Mom. I showed the letter to Rachel. She read it twice. What do you think? I sat with the question. I think she means it. I think she's actually changed. But I also think it doesn't matter. The damage is done. The trust is gone. Maybe someday I'll be ready to try again. But not yet. Rachel folded the letter and handed it back. Then that's okay. You get to decide when, if ever, you're ready. I filed the letter away with the first one, started a new folder on my laptop. Letters from Mom. Maybe someday I'd have enough of them to see a pattern, to trust that the change was real and lasting. For now, I had my life, my career that was flourishing, my relationship with Rachel that was deepening. My family members who'd chosen to see the truth and stay in my life. My freedom from the role I'd been assigned, from the lies I'd been trapped in. 3 years after I canceled my mother's credit cards at Christmas dinner, I was more myself than I'd ever been. The cost had been high. I'd lost my mother, some extended family members, the comfortable fiction that family always meant safety and love. But I'd gained something more valuable. Self-respect, boundaries, the ability to say no without drowning in guilt. A life built on truth instead of manipulation. On a quiet Sunday in June, Rachel and I were grocery shopping when I saw her. My mother. She was at the checkout, bagging groceries with careful efficiency. She looked older, thinner, tired. But there was something different in her posture. Less performance, maybe. More honesty. She glanced up and our eyes met. For a second, neither of us moved. Then she gave me a small nod. Not a plea, not an accusation, just acknowledgement. I nodded back. Kept walking. Rachel squeezed my hand. You okay? I thought about it. Yeah, I said. I really am. Because that's what freedom looked like. Seeing the person who'd defined so much of your pain and feeling nothing but distant compassion. Wishing them well from afar without needing to be part of their life. Knowing you'd made the right choice, even when it was the hard choice. My mother went back to bagging groceries. I went back to building my life. And for the first time in years, I felt no guilt about the distance between us. Only gratitude that I'd finally chosen myself. 6 months later, Rachel and I got engaged. We debated whether to tell my mother, to invite her to the wedding. In the end, we decided to keep it small. Just the people who'd shown up for us consistently, who'd earned their place in our lives. Aunt Diane and Uncle Raymond came, Bethany and Mark, a handful of close friends, Rachel's whole family. We got married in October, exactly 4 years after the Christmas dinner that changed everything. As I stood at the altar watching Rachel walk toward me, I thought about the man I'd been then. Trapped in someone else's narrative, funding someone else's lies, too afraid to demand the truth. That man was gone. In his place was someone who knew his worth, who could set boundaries without guilt, who understood that sometimes love means walking away. The wedding was perfect. No drama, no manipulation, no lies, just truth and love and the beginning of something real. And I realized that's all I'd ever wanted. Not revenge against my mother, not vindication or triumph, just the freedom to live honestly, to be seen for who I actually was, to build a life that reflected my truth instead of someone else's fiction. I got that freedom. It cost me everything I thought I owed my mother, but it gave me everything I'd been missing, myself. And in the end, that was worth it. Thanks for watching till the end. Make sure to subscribe and like to not miss the next story.